capitalizing on itself and getting bigger and bigger. Every city that we work with is going through this right now. This is the temper tantrums that we hear in our communities that we work with. They can only afford 50% of their roads. We flush their money into the system. We said, this is it. This is where you run out of. As you ask for things, you have to be aware of the cost and the price. Sure, I want to have a big yard. I don't want to be next to you. I don't want to hear your dog bark, right? I also want to be 6 foot tall and have a full head of hair. I think you should pay for that. You know, it's like, think about the cost of this stuff. And this is a paradigm that we're going through. Every city's going through this. You got to know your incentives. There's a suburban bias baked into all of our tax system. This is one of my favorite explanations. So we've got dirt value and buildings, right? We can go into the computer, turn the buildings off, and just look at the dirt value per acre. You see the world up here looks normal. Everybody's the same value in that neighborhood, right? Per acre. When I was presenting this in Cheyenne, Wyoming, I was like, what's going on here? Where that's $15,000 an acre, and when you cross the street, it doubles in value. How does land in the same zoning category double in value across the street? And the tax assessor was sitting in the front row, and she just raises her hand. She goes, you don't understand. I'm like, what am I missing? And she goes, well, they have more land. The more land you have, the lower the value. Does that make any sense? The mayor started laughing so hard, he almost spit coffee out of his nose. I was like, wait, hang on a second. I get more land, you give me a tax break? She goes, yeah, that's the way the system works. And I'm like, I've got 3 miles of street around this property. This fellow's got 200 feet. She goes, we don't count infrastructure as part of the valuation. So your money that you put into the ground, you're not asking for it back. She goes, that's not the way the assessment works. So the reason why I was at the tax assessors conference was to ask them about this. Their magazine is called Fair and Equitable. And I'm like, is it fair or is it equitable? Now, to their credit, they're like, it's not. I'm like, where did this come from? Did Moses deliver this to you? Like, where did this standard come from? And they're like, we don't know. You need to talk to Larry. I'm like, Larry who? Like Larry Clark. So I tracked this guy down in the hallway. He thought this was funny, by the way. And I'm like, where did this come from? He's like, I don't know. It's probably something from the British system. We came across the ocean with it, and it probably has something to do with agriculture. And now that you point that out, it doesn't make any sense. We probably should get rid of it. You'd think there's adults that kind of see this stuff. And it's like, well, how's the market going to work? Right? Is it an invisible hand that's making me buy this stuff? As a developer, I'm going to buy the bigger parcels of land. I'm going to consume more of your infrastructure if you're not going to charge me for it. It's business. So let me give you an example. Peoria, Illinois, they told me they had a parking problem. We're like, all right, we're map people, we'll measure it. So here's your water, here's your green space, here's your streets and sidewalks, here's all your surface parking, and here are your buildings. Now, of those buildings, these are all parking decks. Don't look like you have a parking problem to me. I don't know, call me crazy. But here's the way it works financially. When I build buildings, I have a tax assessor that follows me and puts a price tag on stuff. So this is the average Peorian. There she is. She's got 1,200 square foot of buildings and 3 parking spaces dedicated to her across the whole entire county. That's their numbers. When that gets built, the assessor puts a price tag on that and a price tag on that. Oh. Right? This is the taxable value of an average square foot of building. This is the taxable value of parking. The cost of the road is going to cost $22 a square foot in front of the building and in front of the parking. Right? Do you see the subsidy? You're paying 27 times less taxes on that than that, even though your cost is uniform. That's a subsidy. Write it down and make sure you decide. Wow. When we pull the taxes off that building and the taxes off the parking, it takes 32 years if you put all 100% of the taxes off that building into a savings account. Don't give any money to the police department, none to the fire department, none to the school system. Don't pay your financial officer or your city attorney. 32 years, which is good because you'll catch up to the road. The road's 50 years. But in the parking, it'll take 786 years. I'm no civil engineer, but roads don't last 786 years, people. Do you see the problem? So when we look at any city and we see everything stops around the downtown, it's because there's a choker collar of parking all around the downtown. When you go out to the burbs, it's because there's all this parking out there. We have mandated a system that's driving us broke. It's a really bad math problem. We did the whole region this way. Here's the whole entire, imagine this is the region of Peel. Take all the buildings and shove them together side by side. That's the footprint you need for an entire county's worth of buildings. That's it. Now, hey Joe, I'm not European, I don't want to be so close to you. Just stretch out. Well, you need parking, and then here's the roads. That's all they needed to consume right there. Here's their actual numbers. They actually have more land dedicated to parking the buildings. Here's their roads. Here's everything else. Here are the numbers. Let's do it on a per square mile basis. Oops. Sorry. So they have, this is where we should start looking, right? It costs us $250 a square mile for roads, and this is only producing 40 million. Why don't these numbers match? Did y'all follow me? At the very least, we know who's using those roads. That would be called cars, right? We know who's using the parking. That would be called cars. Why don't the cars pay for themselves? But instead what happens, because you're not catching up with your roads, your counselors are forced to go into your budget, take some money out of here, and pay for that.
Wow.
Did you all vote on that? Did you vote to make cars have this massive subsidy? Was that a conscious choice? Just do that. If this is the best use of your money, go for it. So the crazy thing is they have enough roads to go from Peoria to Vancouver. Or another way of putting this, every 50 years they have to go on a capital campaign to build a road from Peoria to Vancouver. That road needs to be rebuilt every 50 years. This is all spatial analysis. I know this joke only works for people over the age of 35, but anyway. I know this is depressing, I'm sorry, but there's a way out. Leander, Texas, outside of Austin. Here's Austin. They ran a train line out to Leander. Leander's a pretty funky place. They kind of don't like Austin. And here's their train station, and it's Texas. You can see how they deal with it. They're just like, screw it. They just put a big box right there. Well, the region committed to this train station, this investment, and they built a school over here. And a developer came in and did this proposal, which is basically a main street with mixed-use buildings, some apartments for the students by the campus, and then this is all townhouses, and here's the downtown. They wanted a $20 million tax increment from the community. They asked us to measure it and whether or not it's going to be a good investment. So it doesn't happen overnight. Here's phase one, and then it grows out and then fulls out to full build out. We estimated about $700 million worth of value. Here's their tax model right now. This is what they look like. Their most potent building is an architect's office right there. They basically suburbanized without ever having a downtown. Y'all at least have a downtown. Here's phase one, phase two, and phase three. This is building wealth. It's a different animal. So in their defense, they're not like Georgetown and Round Rock that both have downtowns. They just basically monolithically sprawl, but they could add one in right there. So that would take the average value of their community from $275,000 and double it, just by one 100-acre project. This is how you can build wealth. And is it a gift? Yes, it is a gift. This is what they're giving the developer in tax deferment right there. They're basically not collecting that. But it's not fair to say the developer's not paying anything. And that's what some people in the community were saying. We had 2 people against the project on city council. But this is what they're paying. They're splitting the bill, basically. And then the tax increment ends, and they gain their money. So we made a little thermometer and showed them this is what half payment. So if we go back, they're only paying this much, right? Look at how much that is compared to everything else in their community. So even though it's a half payment, it's still dusting everything else. And then it eventually gets big. Now 2 of the counselors, one of them was like, I don't care about this project, I just want a Costco and a Target. We're like, all right, we'll make one of those. So here's a Costco and Target and whatever, strip malls, and then this is what your offer is. So do you want a $600 million project, or a $60 million project, or $700 million? Do you want 60 or 700? It's your choice. If you ask me, I would invest 20 and take 700 over 60 million every day. They voted 5-2 in favor of this. One of the counselors that was on the fence came down after the meeting, and she goes, I didn't really understand any of this stuff because it all sounded like gibberish. We've been talking about it for a couple years, but when I saw the purple thing next to the green thing, I want the purple thing. It's like, all right. If we're not measuring this stuff, you can't manage it. If you're not talking about things that are data specific, you're wasting a lot of time. Bring the data to the table so you can see this. We call this geo-accounting, right? Your accountant doesn't care if you buy a boat, right? Your accountant cares if you can afford a boat. Run the numbers on this stuff. Make choices. Make them conscious choices. Don't just let the system build around you. Put the numbers on a map so you can see it. Have fun with this. And I'll close with this quote, because we're going to hammer this home over 3 of us. This was said in 1961. Once the automobile is treated as the chief concern of planning, there will never be enough park space from it to become congested, or high enough residential density with enough taxes sufficient to cover its exorbitant demands. You can never build your way out of that problem when you commit to it. This is a fallacy that we've been on since we went down this road in the 50s. And they saw it in the 60s. You're not going to change because we're addicted to a habit. And we need to acknowledge that. This is a human problem. All the evidence that could bring you, you're going to keep on doing this. This is the heart attack that our country's facing. I could choose to eat a cheeseburger tonight or tomorrow. But I know that the data inside my body says that that's not good for my body. I have to consciously choose to not eat a cheeseburger and not eat pizza. I love cheeseburgers and pizza, but I have to make those choices. So do your math and keep yourself out of bankruptcy. Thanks.